Let's talk about the primary results. Let's put this up there on the screen. We'll start here with Brian Kemp. So here's what happened last night. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp doesn't just win the GOP primary, he absolutely obliterates David Perdue. 72% of the vote to Perdue's 22% of the vote. And you guys will recall David Perdue famously said, "We may not win, but we're not going to lose by 30. Well, he was right. He was actually down by 50 in that race. I mean, there's no other way to describe this except a complete and utter humiliation of David Perdue, who was once a high-ranking member of the United States Senate on the Republican Party, and of Donald Trump. Let's put this up there on the screen. This is a great Politico report, actually, on how we're going to go effing scorched earth, how Brian Kemp crushed Trump in Georgia. And what they point to is that Kemp is honestly a very savvy politician. He never said a goddamn word about Trump. He just did what he had to do. He moved on from the election. He courted the base on every issue, CRT, voting, all this stuff. Then he actually strategically appointed many of his biggest critics to high office in the state of Georgia. He never really addressed any of Trump's major concerns. And I think the Republican base was said, yeah, we want to move on from 2020. They're like, yeah, I guess we think the election was stolen, but, you know, Brian Kemp, he seems like a good guy. And I can't help but come back to this, which is that I love whenever this happens just to show you that people are not automatons. They don't just go, well, Donald Trump said to vote for him, so I'm going to vote for him. People think for themselves. Americans are smart. They could look at David Perdue and say, this guy is a moron. He literally doesn't want to be governor for any other reason except his own personal vanity. And because of whatever happened in 2020, this guy, Brian Kemp, at least purports to do what we asked him to do. And so we're going to vote for him no matter what Trump has to say. So a massive rebuke of Donald Trump here in terms of how much he can translate his personal political brand to issues which people do not care about.
Yeah, I think that's the number one thing you can say. Stop the steal is not enough.
Yeah, it's just not.
I mean, listen, I never want to overstate these things because Donald Trump's endorsement is still the most important and most powerful endorsement in all of politics. There's just no doubt about it.
Yep.
I mean, he endorsed Vance at kind of the right moment when Vance was already rising the polls.
That's right.
But, he did help him get over the finish line. It appears that he may have given Oz the boost that he needed to get over the finish line. I do also think that partly these executive offices are a bit of a different deal than federal legislators. So to your point about Kemp, this guy, I mean, this is a very right-wing guy. He checked the box for the Republican base on literally every issue, from guns to abortion to CRT to voting. And
I think taxes, too. I think he lowered taxes.
He lowered taxes. Yeah. And so when it came time for people to vote, they said, okay, that's nice, Donald Trump, you're not real happy with him, but listen, we've seen who he is, and we're good with him right now. And so you really see the limit, like the size of the pure stop the steal Donald Trump vote, and it looks to be around 20%. I mean, the other one that is really incredible is, maybe even more remarkable, is Brad Raffensperger, who is the Secretary of State, who the only thing that you would ever know this man for is his opposition to Donald Trump and stop the steal. I mean, what else do you know a secretary? You don't know a Secretary of State. That's the only thing that they really have to do with. And so Donald Trump has his handpicked candidate, Jody Hice. This thing in the polling looked like it was going to be very close. Raffensperger not only won, but he won with over 50% of the vote.
Also avoiding runoff.
Meaning that he avoids a runoff. To me, that's almost more humiliating than what happened here with Kemp. Because, yeah, Kemp had other things that he could lean on, other things people knew him for. This was just a pure kind of litmus test of how do you feel about Stop the Steal and Donald Trump. And ultimately, he comes up dramatically short. Trump's endorsements in a couple other governor's races, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, also failed. Notably in Idaho, he endorsed the sitting lieutenant governor against the incumbent governor. And she also came up, I mean, she did very, very poorly in that Republican primary. So listen, as I said, the man's endorsement still matters a lot. Jody Heiss wouldn't have even been in the game. David Perdue wouldn't have even been in the game without Donald Trump pumping and supporting these candidates. But ultimately, it's going to take more than just saying stop the steal over and over again to entice even Republican-based voters. And that is a warning sign for him for 2024 because he is obsessed with this and almost to the exclusion of everything else.
Yeah, and that's why it matters, which is that if this is his only pet issue on whether you're MAGA or not, or whether you've gone woke, as we'll talk about in a bit, with respect to Mr. Mo Brooks, well, voters are going to say, you know, Donald, it was a long time ago, and we've got inflation. Biden is president. We have all sorts of problems in this country. And in that case, we're just going to go ahead and vote with the guy who we kind of agree with. And I personally think that that is a very welcome and good development for this country. I mean, look, Brad Raffensperger and Brian Kemp both obviously did the right thing. And every once in a while, the good guy, or okay, the person who does the right thing and then is attacked explicitly for doing the right thing does pull it off in America. And it's nice to see, because what you can see here is that people, even the people, the MAGA faithful, which I think the majority of, here's a good one to square. GA primary voters voted to keep 3 politicians in office yesterday: Brian Kemp, Brad Raffensperger, Marjorie Taylor Greene. So even people who vote for Marjorie are willing to say, I'm going to vote for Brian Kemp. I'm going to vote for Raffensperger.
And she won easily too, by the way.
And she also won easily. Yeah, I know. That was also cope in order to the idea. But my point being here is that even so-called MAGA faithful and all those people are not going to follow him down a path that they just do not care about. So as much as they like Trump, as much as they trust Trump, it has to be in an area which aligns already with the things that they care the most about and not a personal vanity project, which ultimately that's what all Stop the Steal actually is about.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.